The massive shadow of the Varenian ship hung over the city, its silver hull reflecting the morning sun like a giant mirror. People on the street stopped, staring upward in awe and fear. Sirens echoed in the distance, but none of that mattered to Ethan Cole as he held Lyra's hand. She stood beside him, her posture tall, her silver eyes shimmering with quiet determination. For the first time in her life, she was not following orders. She was making her own. Inside the Varenian ship, King Zarak's expression was stormy. His face, chiseled and proud, betrayed the anger he could barely contain. His advisors whispered hurriedly in the alien language, but he did not hear them. His daughter, the one he had considered useless because of her supposed infertility, was carrying a child with a human. Worse, she refused to return to Velthara. The thought was unbearable. Lyra's voice broke the tense silence in the hospital room. "Ethan, what do we do now?" "He will not accept no for an answer." Ethan shook his head, trying to stay calm. "We face him together. That's all we can do." At that moment, the communications system lit up. King Zarak's face appeared on the screen, larger than life, his eyes burning with fury. "Princess Lyra, return to Velthara immediately. The child you carry belongs to the throne. You have no right to refuse." Lyra drew a deep breath. She remembered all the times she had been told she was worthless, all the times she had been dismissed and ignored. No longer. She looked at Ethan and then back at her father. "I am not a gift. I am not property. I am a person, and the child I carry is mine to protect. I will not return with you." A ripple of shock spread through the Varenian crew. The king's expression darkened. "You dare defy me? After all I have done to provide for you?" Lyra's voice was steady. "You only provided because I was expected to obey. I am no longer the child who bows to fear. I am Lyra, and I will protect my child and my life." The Varenian king's fury escalated, but Ethan stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You offered her as a gift, and by your own laws, gifts cannot be reclaimed once accepted. She is here under my care, and you cannot take her without violating your own tradition." Zarak's eyes widened slightly. This human had some understanding of Varenian law, but he was still infuriated. "A human? You stand in front of a king and lecture him on honor?" Ethan didn't flinch. "I stand in front of a father who forgot the meaning of respect. Lyra is not an object. She is your daughter, and she has the right to choose her path. If you truly honor her, you will respect that choice." There was a long silence. The Varenian crew exchanged uncertain glances. The king's pride battled with tradition. He could not openly admit weakness, yet the law he so fiercely upheld left him no choice. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but resonant. "The child, born of a human, would be part of your line?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, but it does not diminish your legacy. It strengthens it. Two worlds united by one child learning from each other. That is honor." Lyra watched her father carefully. She did not expect forgiveness, only acknowledgement that she had grown beyond the role he had assigned her. "Father, I will always respect Velthara, but I will not let fear or tradition dictate my life anymore." King Zarak studied her for a long moment, his expression softening slightly. He had seen her grow even as he had dismissed her. She was no longer a weak child. She was strong, determined, and wise in ways he had never anticipated. "Then it seems, the laws I swore to uphold leave me no choice," he said finally. "The child shall remain with you, human. But know this. The throne is not given lightly. Danger will follow, and you must be prepared to protect both mother and heir." Lyra nodded. "We will be ready. We will protect our child." Ethan's hand tightened around hers. "And we will face it together." In the days that followed, Velthara sent envoys to assist in protecting Lyra and her unborn child. While they were wary of Ethan at first, his courage, intelligence, and genuine care for Lyra gradually earned their respect. Lyra learned about their defensive technologies, their communication networks, and even some aspects of their combat training, not to fight for conquest, but to protect. Despite the looming threat from her father and the political pressures, life began to take on a rhythm again. Ethan and Lyra spent quiet evenings together, discussing dreams for the future. She marveled at how humans valued education, art, and family. He marveled at her adaptability, her wisdom, and her bravery. Each moment deepened their bond, and each day the child within Lyra grew stronger, as if nourished by their shared love and resilience. The human media, naturally, tried to sensationalize the story. Headlines screamed about an alien princess living in the city, carrying a human child, but Ethan and Lyra were careful to maintain privacy. Their lives were no longer private, yet they retained the simple joy of shared moments, walks in the park, quiet dinners, and late-night conversations under the stars. As the months passed, Lyra's pregnancy progressed without complications. The Varenian king monitored her from afar, sending occasional messages, sometimes sharp, sometimes cautious, but always respectful of the law that had been enforced. Slowly, he began to see that Ethan was not just a human engineer. He was a partner who valued Lyra, respected her, and was willing to stand against enormous power to protect what was right. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Lyra stood on the balcony of their apartment, her hand on her growing belly. Ethan joined her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "I never thought life could be like this," she said softly. "I thought I was useless, a disappointment, and now I have a life inside me and I have someone who believes in me." Ethan smiled. "You've always been capable. You just needed to see it for yourself. And now we'll show the world what it means to protect, love, and lead. Together." Lyra leaned into him, her silver eyes reflecting the last rays of sunlight. "Our child will be different. They will belong to two worlds, but they will also belong to themselves. They will know love, not fear. They will know choice, not duty imposed by birth." Ethan kissed her forehead. "And we'll be here every step of the way." The peaceful moment, however, was short-lived. Sensors on the balcony detected an incoming Varenian patrol ship, smaller and faster than the massive vessel that had once intimidated the city. The patrol was not hostile yet, but their message was clear. The king was testing the human and his daughter. Ethan and Lyra shared a determined glance. "They want to intimidate us," Ethan said. "But we're ready." Lyra nodded. "We face them not with fear, but with resolve. We protect our family." When the patrol landed, Ethan and Lyra greeted the Varenians openly. Instead of confrontation, Ethan offered a calm explanation. "We are preparing for your arrival. The child is safe, the mother is safe, and we will honor Velthara while protecting our home. That is the law, and that is our promise." The Varenians observed carefully. Ethan's courage, his understanding of Varenian tradition, and his unwavering dedication impressed them. Slowly, they relayed the king's acknowledgement. He accepted the child, and Ethan as its protector, though he remained watchful. The weeks passed, and Lyra gave birth to a healthy child, a boy with a faint silver glow in his eyes, hinting at his mixed heritage. The birth was peaceful, aided by both human doctors and Varenian healers who respected Lyra's choices and Ethan's guidance. The child's first cry resonated across the room, and for the first time, King Zirak spoke to his daughter with words of acknowledgement rather than orders. "You have done well, Lyra. The child is ours in name, but also yours in life and love. I see now that strength is not only in heirs and tradition, but in courage, choice, and protection." Lyra smiled, tears glistening in her silver eyes. "Thank you, Father, but we will live our life as we choose, together." Ethan held Lyra and the newborn close, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the warmth of hope. Humanity had given him courage, and Lyra had shown him a universe full of wonder and bravery. Together they had faced alien royalty, political storms, and fear, and emerged stronger. From that day forward, the child became a symbol of unity between two worlds, a living testament to courage, love, and the extraordinary possibilities when respect and compassion guide choices. Ethan and Lyra knew the road ahead would be full of challenges, but they also knew that together they could face anything. And so, in a world where tradition and expectation had once ruled, a human and alien princess and their child began a new story. One where courage, love, and choice created a legacy that no law, no king, and no fear could ever take away. Evan had never imagined that moving into a new apartment could be such a strange experience. He was used to living alone, enjoying the quiet hum of city life and having his routines uninterrupted. But the new housing program he had signed up for promised something different, something about fostering human-alien coexistence. At first, he hadn't paid too much attention to it, thinking it would be more like a novelty, like having a neighbor from another country. He didn't realize that alien meant something beyond imagination. The building itself was surprisingly modern. Smooth, silver walls reflected the soft neon lights, and the elevators moved silently. Evan felt a slight thrill as he rode up to his floor, imagining his new life here. The hallway smelled faintly of ozone, and he noticed that some of the doors had small glowing panels beside them, something he hadn't seen in a normal apartment building. The panel outside his own door blinked softly as he approached. A small voice through the intercom spoke in a tone that sounded almost musical. "Welcome, Resident Evan. Your roommate has been notified." Evan blinked, looking around. "Roommate?" "I didn't choose a roommate," he said aloud. There was no response except the soft hum of the building. He entered the apartment. It was small but cozy, with 2 rooms, a shared kitchen, and a living area that was brighter than he expected. The layout was clean and efficient. He set down his bags, expecting at any moment to meet his roommate. But the room next door stayed silent. Hours passed and there was no sign of anyone. Evan thought maybe she was just shy. The next morning, a soft knock came at his door. Evan opened it to find a figure standing there, humanoid in shape but unlike any human he had ever seen. She was slender and moved with a quiet grace. Her skin was covered in a shimmering suit that hugged her body, reflecting the room's light in waves of green and blue. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and an unusual shade of violet. Her hair, or what resembled hair, was fine and silver, glowing faintly at the edges. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was soft but musical, each word flowing smoothly. "I am Lyra, your roommate." Evan blinked. Good morning. I'm Evan. Nice to meet you." Lyra nodded politely and moved past him into the shared living space, her steps making no sound at all. She didn't smile, but she didn't look unfriendly either. Evan tried to start a conversation, asking her about Earth, her experiences, and how she found living here. She gave short, precise answers, and sometimes paused for long stretches in silence as if weighing every word before speaking. Days passed, and Evan noticed that Lyra spent most of her time in her room. He rarely saw her except during meals, and even then she maintained her distance. She wore her full-body suit at all times, never letting her skin touch the air. He assumed it was because of Earth's atmosphere, or perhaps some cultural reason. He didn't push, though he sometimes caught himself glancing at her, curiosity gnawing at him. There was something almost magnetic about her, something that drew him in despite the strangeness. One evening, Evan returned from a late walk to find the bathroom door slightly ajar. He was sleepy and distracted, not thinking clearly, and assumed no one was inside. As he stepped closer, he caught a glimpse through the steam-filled glass. He froze. Lyra was inside bathing, not in the usual human sense, for her bathing setup was unlike anything he had seen, with water that glowed faintly and swirled with tiny motes of light. Her suit was removed, and Evan's breath caught in his throat, not because of anything sexual, but because what he saw was extraordinary. Her skin was not like any human's. Instead, it was covered in patterns that shimmered and shifted in color, glowing faintly in blues, pinks, and soft golds. Each movement made the patterns ripple like liquid light. Her body was elegant, graceful, and utterly alien. Evan turned immediately, backing away in shock and mumbling apologies. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." The lights on Lyra's skin flickered rapidly, a mix of pinks and soft purples. Evan didn't know what it meant, but he could tell she was startled. She didn't shout or scream as he had feared. Instead, she turned away, covering herself with her arms. The air between them felt heavy, charged with tension. "I did not expect you to enter," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "You have seen something that very few humans ever see." Evan stammered, I'm really sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. He stopped, realizing that no words could undo what he had seen. He felt ashamed, expecting anger or worse. Instead, Lyra's glowing skin softened into gentle blue hues. "It is unusual for your species," she said quietly. "But you did not react with fear or mockery. That is unusual as well." Evan blinked. I didn't know how to react. Honestly, I thought it was beautiful." There was a pause. Then her light shifted into warm golds. It was a color he hadn't seen before, and somehow it felt like a smile. "Perhaps," she said finally, "there is more to your species than I expected." That night, Evan lay awake thinking about what had happened. He didn't sleep well, caught between wonder, curiosity, and the awkwardness of the situation. Lyra had approached him briefly before he went to bed, speaking in her soft, musical tone about trust. Seeing her natural form was not just an accident, it was significant. Among her people, revealing oneself fully to another was a gesture of deep trust, and she had trusted him. The next day, Lyra moved more openly around the apartment. She didn't remove her suit, but she didn't avoid him as she had before. Evan noticed small details about her that he hadn't before. The slight curl of her fingers, the way her eyes seemed to flicker when she thought deeply, the subtle glow that emanated from her skin even under the suit. He learned that her species had bioluminescent skin, each pattern and color reflecting emotion. Evan's curiosity was growing. He wanted to know everything about her life, her world, and how she had ended up on Earth. Lyra, surprisingly, shared more with him than he expected. She explained the basics of her home planet, her species' social structures, and why she had come to Earth. She had been part of a scientific mission to study human culture, but a travel accident had left her stranded. The housing program had offered her refuge. As days turned into a week, Evan noticed that their interactions were shifting. They weren't just roommates now. They were cautiously learning each other's habits, preferences, and rhythms. She would prepare meals differently for herself, arranging small glowing pods of food on her plate, and he would cook his usual human meals. Sometimes, they would sit together in the living area, speaking quietly, sharing observations about the building, the city outside, and human quirks she found amusing. Despite her aloofness, there was a playful side to Lyra that Evan hadn't expected. One evening, while cleaning, he dropped a dish and it shattered on the floor. Lyra's lights flickered rapidly, and then she laughed, a sound like chimes in the wind. Evan laughed too, relieved. It felt like a breakthrough, a small step toward a friendship that could grow beyond species boundaries. But there was still tension in the air, a lingering awareness of her difference. Evan knew he had glimpsed something extraordinary, something that most humans would fear or reject. Yet for him it had awakened fascination, not fear. He began to understand that her body was not just an alien form, it was a language, a way of expressing emotions and intentions. He realized that every flicker of color, every shift in pattern told a story. Late at night, when the apartment was quiet, Evan would sometimes see Lyra's lights glowing faintly through the closed door of her room. He wondered what she was thinking, what colors her emotions held, and whether she felt the same curiosity and cautious trust he did. He wanted to learn everything about her, not out of obsession, but out of admiration for her courage, her uniqueness, and the strange beauty of her existence. One evening, as he returned from a walk, he found Lyra sitting on the edge of the living room, her suit slightly loosened at the neck. She looked at him, and her lights pulsed softly, a gentle welcome. Without words, they shared a moment of understanding. Evan felt a warmth he had never experienced with another human. He realized that this unusual encounter, seeing her, understanding her, and being accepted despite their differences, was the beginning of a connection that could transcend anything he had known before. For the first time since moving in, Evan felt a sense of wonder that went beyond curiosity. It was hope. A hope that humans and aliens, despite their differences, could understand each other, learn from each other, and perhaps even trust each other. Lyra's presence, her glow, and her calm confidence were teaching him that there was more to the universe than he had imagined. And so, the days went on. Evan and Lyra learned each other's habits, laughed at small mistakes, and grew accustomed to the quiet companionship of sharing a home. The initial shock of seeing her body had passed, replaced by admiration, curiosity, and a budding trust that neither of them fully understood yet. Both knew that the future held challenges. Earth was not always kind to outsiders, and humans could be quick to judge what they did not understand. But for now, in the small apartment that glowed with the soft hum of alien technology, they found peace. Evan sometimes wondered how the next week would unfold. Would they become close friends? Would he ever fully understand the language of her glowing skin? Could she trust him enough to reveal everything about herself? He didn't have the answers yet,